We're back, beloved. You are sitting with the sister minister. We know that the original airing of this was Friday, July 26th, and I shared with you all then that we were going to continue the discourse and the discussion because this is too critical and too important, especially leading up to 2020 with the census, with the elections that are coming. This is just too critical. Education is the civil rights issue of the 21st century. So, Dr. Gates, before we took that break, you shared with us that there had been 1,700 students. Say again, please.
1,700 students, 1,700 L learners that we received over the past 2 years. And I just want to correct, it's 25,000 per student.
25,000. That's what Hempstead pays per student.
Per student.
Okay.
But the greater challenge was when those students came, many of them did not know this language. So we had other challenges relative trying to indoctrinate them into the system, trying to fold them in, weave them in, and then they needed additional services.
1,700.
Yes.
But the money did not follow.
The money did not follow.
And then you lost $6 million in state aid.
$6 billion in state aid this year.
Don had an issue with that number.
And so when people who really don't understand, that's incorporating more staff.
Right.
For example, global studies will be an ESL class with a regular teacher, and sometimes you have to have an interpreter in the classroom with us. So now you have two teachers. Sometimes some districts have two teachers and an aide.
Okay, stop right there.
Right.
ESL.
ESL.
Say,
English.
as a second. Go ahead.
English as a second language.
Okay, go.
Right. So districts like Roosevelt, Hempstead, Uniondale, Brentwood, Wyandanch, where there's been a new increase in enrollment, you know, those are monies that really haven't been accounted for the district, because you don't even know. They're registering as we speak right now.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what happened in Westbury when Westbury had to move all of their ninth graders to Nassau Community College on a complex because they ended up with over 900 ninth graders.
Wow.
So they got a variance, you know, to move students. But the other thing is, some of those kids, like Dr. Gates had said that they come in and they have some shortcomings. But realistically, a kid who's 17 or 18 years old with no credits is not going to be successful in a regular high school program.
Right.
So we have to find other ways to kind of like, how do we make up those years? How do we get this young man or young lady credits so they can be productive citizens? But it wasn't it wasn't a big issue when they were just moving in our communities.
Gotcha.
But then
now they're going
Manhasset,
okay.
Jericho.
Okay.
You know, so now the topic is on the table. It's on the table, and you need financial backing
to go with that.
Absolutely.
So you said now it's called
English language learners.
Okay,
English language learners,
which
yes.
formerly was ESL, English
yes.
as a second language.
Right.
So, okay, and I don't see anything wrong, since English is a foreign language to us too, but we learned it.
Right.
And that's the language that we all speak in this country
Sure.
Right.
primarily, so there's nothing wrong so that everybody can communicate with everybody knowing English.
Right.
And so, but now accommodations, according to the law, have to be made for the influx.
Right.
You must educate every child, isn't that right?
Absolutely.
So if the resources are not following the student, then that becomes a burden on an already burdened and underfunded system.
Absolutely.
Is it true that we can agree that's partially?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's huge.
And then the thing about monitors, they don't necessarily honor the intelligentsia in our communities.
No.
And those students are being judged when they take the Regents exams. And if you follow the lines and you look at the failure rate, That's where your failures are. So why are you being penalized doubly?
Wow.
You know, now that and so when the school report card comes out, well, Roosevelt and Hempstead, you know, X amount of students failed the math or living environment. You know, it's not really an accurate picture on students who just came into your district who have not mastered the English language.
And I tend to look at instruction. That's very good. You're saying it's more than instruction.
Yes. Yes.
Dr. Gates, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. A lot of it is socialization.
Yeah.
It's really
Beverly?
Yes.
Right.
You were a guidance
Socialization.
counselor.
Yes.
So,
Yes. It's definitely the socialization and personal concerns, family concerns, living situation.
Arrangements,
Yeah. Yeah, it's all of that.
Yeah. As an
All of
attendance,
that.
yeah,
The
as
whole
an
child.
as an
whole child,
attendance
right.
person, Bev, and you know this, we always had issues in April and May because students were leaving.
That's right.
Because their parents own landscaping, and so they would just they had to go to work.
wow.
So what we tried to do is be proactive, is to load up their schedule, because I was a master scheduler also, that to schedule them from periods 1 through 5 with their major courses, and then just let them leave, because
Okay.
they, you know,
Sure.
they were going to leave anyway.
And you'd rather have them in for 5
Absolutely.
periods because
Absolutely.
the 8 will follow.
Right,
Well,
well,
in some instances.
State laws, if you're here, don't let a kid hear this. If they're here for a period, they're here.
Okay. Oh, they changed that thing. Okay.
It's not the 3 periods.
It's not the, okay, because
no.
back in my day,
gotta
it
do
was
is-
several periods.
Well,
So,
that saved a lot of districts. Step
yes,
into the building.
Yes. Okay, I bet. Let's go back to this legislation.
Okay.
So we're at the point where we're saying a discourse dialogue is happening.
Right.
We're encouraging Governor Andrew Cuomo to not sign the legislation.
Yes.
Just like I wish he hadn't signed the other. But to not sign the legislation, and then next steps, the dialogue continues. What's the objective? What is the Hempstead School Board looking for in terms of this? Do you want it rescinded? Do you want it amended? Do you want it overturned? What are you looking to achieve? Because, and just for the record, that interim superintendent Regina Armstrong to have the data
Right.
and be able to speak to it. And then what Don Cremel is saying, Champion Don, about being in the room to make sure that it's not scrubbed, because people do try to clean things that aren't dirty.
Right.
So,
So from a board perspective,
yes.
we want it rescinded. We
Okay.
want it rescinded. We believe that we had several elementary schools that were focus schools. They made demonstrative improvement, so they're now in good standing. This is all that's happened in the past 2 years.
And Dr. B has been Dr. Besmore?
Beerwith.
Beerwith.
Dr. Beerwith.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Beerwith. And he's been there to witness that. While the high school and the middle school is still on the receivership, they're coming off of it.
Okay.
They've made demonstrative improvement. The 37% graduation rate that everybody has been talking about, that went 10 years ago, we're now at 57, 58. So
Beautiful.
we've made
Strides.
great strides in it. But the challenge that we face, is that while the board is championing and fighting to rescind this, unfortunately, we have NYSET who's fighting for it.
New York School.
Boards Association.
No, that's not school, but
No.
NYSET is teachers.
Is it
That's for
teachers?
teachers, yes.
Yes.
Well, you know, if the state really wants to be proactive, and if they really, truly want to talk reform, then we need to talk about going after some of these licenses. You know, in Roosevelt, we've got the new situation. The 2 untenured teachers involved were dismissed immediately. The tenured teacher, who they tell me is the ringleader, is still there. That license needs to be snatched. And if the threat of, or if that's not on the table, then people think they can do anything they want. I believe that who's in charge of that NYSET now?
What's his name?
Do you know? Not Michael.
No. He's an African American brother. What's his name?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He came
Okay.
down to speak to Roosevelt.
Oh, wow.
But Dr. Gates, explain to me why NICE is now for this.
We've yet to have those conversations.
Okay.
And last night, the president of the local here said to me, "We need to talk." We had a school board meeting last night. It was a shock to us
Yes.
because when we sat down
Yes.
with the assemblywoman, when we were calling Andrea Stewart Cousins' office, Paul Hasty's office, we found out then that there was an equal number of people calling against as there
Wow.
was for.
Well, that happened. That's what they did in Roosevelt.
And so we didn't know that. So while we
Yeah.
were fueling information out, it wasn't until we started having those conversations with those persons that we found out. I'm like, well, wait. We're all on the same page.
Should be.
Was not so. And so, for the board, we've got to put that aside, as you talked earlier, and understand that it has to be about the children.
That's right.
It's got to be about the children. And even if this is indeed the direction that y'all want to take, and I get it, many of them have not had their contracts ratified in maybe 5 to 6 years, so they're continually in contract negotiations. So someone believes that possibly should this monitoring take place, then this would settle this and they would receive. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way at all.
It doesn't. And so it's unfortunate because one more time we believe that someone else can come in and tell us what to do when all they're really coming in to do is to take the resources.
That's it. Now the teachers, that's what they, and I keep I'm lining up the comparisons, even though it's decades old. In Roosevelt, that's what happened. The Teachers Association did not work with us. And the reality, I'm talking in terms of the leadership, what they presented. And the reality is, if there were proper discourse, then everybody could, but in your case, where you all were told that yours were with you,
Yeah.
because I heard that story,
Yeah.
and then to find out no, but yet nobody's missed a paycheck
No.
in the past 6 years.
No.
Maybe no raise, but nobody's missed a paycheck.
But
So
we need to pass that information on because I am an active member for the Roosevelt retiree teachers and who meet with our unions and who have a voice with NICES. So I'm going to now, I didn't know that until you just said it today.
Wow.
So we're meeting around the third or fourth week in August. So I'm going to make sure that's
Right.
one of the bulletins in our
Right.
meeting.
Right.
oh, excellent,
Thank you.
excellent.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Dr. Gates.
So that is a great concern because we felt as though these trips to Albany, these conversations that we had, at least we had our teachers and in our corner, and I'm not saying all of them.
Of course not.
I'm not going to say all of them. I believe that there's a great remnant of them that's for the movement, but then there are others who feel as though I've been here so long. I've not seen the
entitled.
progress. I've not seen what I feel it should be, and so therefore I think that this is a great move.
Well, let's check their record.
Yeah.
Well, that's public
Because
education.
some of
period.
the ones-
You're not going to get rich in public education.
But you can make a nice living. But some of the charges that are levied, when folks start talking about facilities, when folks, all these distractions, how do you factor yourself into the equation? That was one of the things that we pro-offered back when. How do you factor yourself into the equation? What does it say about me if this is my bread and butter? This is where I'm making ends meet. But yet, I'm not going to support the very folk who are supporting me.
Right.
What does that say about the individual? So that's why I raised the question, how do you factor yourself into the equation? So go ahead. So now you're going to meet with the NICES wants to meet with you now?
Well, everyone wants to come to the table and have these conversations. I think it's setting in that there is a possibility. While the New York State School Board Association is saying, listen, although what's happened in Wyandanch just happened, although what's happening in Rochester, they're giving the power to the community to vote whether or not the city shall take the school district over or not. this sets a precedent.
Yes.
It sets a precedent, and they're not sure if this is the precedent that the governor wants to set at this moment. Everybody's now, it's sort of kind of, it's quiet because of the resignation of the commissioner.
Right.
When that resignation hit, things sort of kind of quieted down.
Who's that,
There's-
Aaliyah?
Yeah, Elliot.
Yeah.
Elliot?
Yes.
When did she resign?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
August
Really?
31st is her last day.
Yes.
Actually, she, when the bill passed, when the bill 2 weeks from there, she was away in Italy and she sent her resignation in.
Yeah.
Wow. So in other words, she wasn't in support of it.
Because
Wow.
this bill,
Good for her.
what I'm trying to tell people is that this bill wasn't created from the New York State Education Department.
No.
This bill was created from an assemblywoman and a senator outside of the scope of education. They didn't consider, they didn't consult.
So they didn't consult with New York
No.
State
No.
SED either.
No.
No.
Wow.
They have no idea of the ramifications that's going to happen for people. Again, one of the things in Roosevelt, when you were there, when people were handed positions and had no idea on how a school district is supposed to run,
None.
writing curriculum, maps, rules and regulations, they were lacking. But this is what, some people wanted, who thought
Yeah.
it was going to bring that pot of gold that you were just
Right.
talking
Right.
about, Doctor. And it never happened.
No.
Never happened.
What happened, Roosevelt was one of the tragedies
Right.
of the New York State Education
Right.
Department, and what it should serve as, and I'm praying it does for this governor, it should serve as a reminder that takeover, that removal of electeds on any level
Okay.
is unacceptable. And when I say unacceptable, if you're going to impeach them, fine. Put you on trial, fine. But just to say no, we can do it better. And I think that borders on negligence on the part of the assembly
Right.
person and the senator.
Right.
If we talk accountability,
Because there's a fear factor, and what happens on our district and Hempstead, those teachers who are in the middle of their career, those are your runners. Those are the kids, the ones that the kids love, the teachers that stay after. They start looking personally, and then they move. They move to other districts. Well, how many teachers did we lose to Uniondale during that
sure.
period?
Oh, are you kidding? It was
at
a
that particular
disgrace.
time.
Yeah.
So they're out looking, and we don't know
Sure.
who's looking now because they don't give you the notice until August.
Right.
And they'll give you the 30 days, and then all of a sudden you have a vacancy.
Right.
What kind of a panel can we convene? Because clearly, when I hear Rochester, I hear Hempstead, Roosevelt, Wyandanch,
Right.
throughout the state. What can we do to help foster? Because I'm sure if I look at the populations, the student populations, they are brown.
Right.
That the state has brown, just like the country is brown, just like the world is brown. So that being the case, how do we connect the dots so that we have systems that are able to educate, able to train, able to properly prepare our young people, as opposed to preparing them for occupancy in those state-of-the-art maximum prisons? I'm speaking here for sure in New York. How do we make that happen? Because even the people in power now won't always be there.
No. I think one of the greatest things that has to take place, which I'm hoping or I'm looking forward to doing, is really pulling in the alumni who have graduated and who have really been successful, and saying, hey guys, this is your alma mater. I need you to come back here. We
Okay.
need to start having these very hard conversations. I know things have changed from when you came through, but I believe that you can make an impact, or you can make an indelible impression upon our youth. A lot of times in our communities, this generation feel hopeless.
Right.
Because, not because of the possibilities are not there. It's the adults.
Right.
It's we make it so much about us till it's not about them. You know, one of the things that we shared in Albany on Tuesday, we had our valedictorian this year and our salutatorian this year are both going to Yale.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. Congratulations. Yeah.
Well, no, our valedictorian last year and our salutatorian Yale Harvard.
Went to Harvard.
You
Okay.
understand?
Okay.
Our valedictorian the year before and our salutatorian, one went to Yale and the other one went to Columbia.
All Ivy Leagues.
Yes. So the issue is they didn't have anybody to pay. They had to take those tests.
Yes.
They had to get in on their
That's
own.
right.
They had to write those essays. You understand?
How about that?
They,
How about that?
they didn't have anybody to give any additional resources. They had to apply. And one of the things that I happened to attend the graduation rehearsal this year, and one of the things that the class president or the class advisor said to the class, regardless of what you hear, you need to hold your head up high.
That's right.
Absolutely.
She said, because when we took the Regents exam, it wasn't just a test carved out for Hempstead. The same test was given in Roosevelt, Freeport, Uniondale, Westbury, Hewlett, Manhasset. You understand?
Sure.
If you scored high, it's because you scored high.
Right.
They didn't give you a different exam.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
Right.
you are a contender
That's
just
great.
like everybody
That's
else.
That's a
right.
great-
That's
So don't
right.
walk out of here believing that you're less than because of what you hear.
Absolutely.
Right.
The same criteria that was set forth for others, you met that criteria.
And mastered.
And you mastered.
And that's
What a
that's
message.
Bev, that's what we said.
What a message.
That same article that you're talking about, I read to my team. So it's not just about Roosevelt, and this is what I keep trying to explain to everybody. You know, when I speak to Ricky Cook and I speak to Satch, you know, those guys are community members,
Right.
and they
Right.
you know, we have dialogue.
Right.
You know, so you know, we're trying to make sure empower all kids,
Right.
all students,
Right.
you know, girls and boys, and you know, they knew about the two girls. So this is what you're striving for.
Oh.
You know, these are the things that you want to, and we made them read it in practice.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Our children are great.
Absolutely.
And you know,
Yes.
even during that time, that rough period, that in Roosevelt, we advocated, continued to advocate, and when they thought they were, how you gonna throw me out my community?
Right.
Are you crazy?
Right.
So, and staying involved, and I think that that's just marvelous. So, how about we all get together, call in Westbury, call in other entities and in our communities, and I think we need to pick a date. And we need to just go ahead and have this forum. Meantime, we need to support, show up when it's time to show up for
Yes.
Hempstead,
Right.
for Roosevelt, for wherever. But let's get this agenda mapped out
Right.
for Strong Island.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then our districts, and then let's make sure we get it done. Right now, again, Governor Cuomo, I am urging you to please not sign, because if he doesn't sign it, it does not become law.
Absolutely.
So we are asking you to not sign that legislation and to be able to, you know, you've always been bold in your career. I'm asking you to let history say, when they look back on this period, that the governor understood what was at stake, and therefore the governor did not sign the legislation. And then we can come together as communities, do our own thing with the resources, put them in place, the people. You know, what affects one affects me today, you tomorrow.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Closing statements, if you will, on this segment.
So for us, we have an awesome task, and I was sharing this with the board last night. Most recently, just a few days ago, the Board of Regents increased the number of students that can attend charter schools. And
What?
So, yes, and so we got another hit. And so with that hit, we're now faced with the challenge.
But losing more.
Say it again.
Losing more.
Losing
Yeah.
more. And now with that, even losing more, the transportation cost is getting ready to increase. But unlike Roosevelt, Mrs. Moore, no matter where you go, She has that book, and she's going to tell the story.
That's right. That's
We
right.
have not done a good job telling our story. We've allowed everyone to tell the story for us, but we've not done a good job. And so one of the things that we have to do as we march into 2019, I've been sharing it with the interim superintendent, we have to rebrand the district.
Okay.
From Slogo, we're going to keep the colors, but from everything, every school, we've got to rebrand it. And we've got to put a branding message out that will not only resonate with the community, but with the students, something that the students can grab a hold of and feel proud of as well. And then create the necessary PR work, the necessary promos, the necessary commercials, the necessary documentaries that will tell the success stories, that will talk about the progress, that will talk about the achievement. And last, we've got to make it about the students.
Right. Well, that's one thing that came to mind with me, Dr. Gates, when I found out you had been elected to lead this group, was the fact that I know for a fact that you are child-centered first. And listen, I'm all with you all restoring the roar.
There you
Restore it, because the Rough Riders, hey. But listen, we thank you. And Bev, any closing commentary?
Success for all children.
Yes.
Okay.
All children.
All children. Don?
Wow, Dr. Gates is powerful.
Yes.
Powerful.
Yes.
I just happened to, over the weekend, took a child to Mercy College who wasn't dealt a beautiful hand. And I walked her around when nobody was around. And I said, this is your one opportunity to knock down the doors.
Wow.
She's going to be the first educator in her family. And it's a beautiful thing, but you didn't get here on your own.
That's right.
There was in fact, you had her sit up at the Sisters of Struggle.
Okay, I know the young lady you're speaking
She
of.
got
Yes.
accepted. She just won.
Oh, beautiful.
She just won the Ann Theodore Foundation Scholarship for $15,000 a year for 4 years.
Beautiful.
So that's pretty much going to put her over the top.
Excellent.
So now we just got to keep her focused. And what Dr. Gates has said before, children first.
Right.
It's always been to all of us on this panel.
Sure.
Children first. We just have to make sure it becomes like a measle.
Okay, and everybody catch it, right?
Everybody catch it.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today on Sitting with the Sister Minister. This is part 2. How much time do we have left on this? We've got 1 minute? Oh my goodness. Jeff Dennis, come on in here real quick. It's the producer's birthday. Beloved,
boy.
hey! Woo, 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 woo. Happy birthday, happy
You don't want us to sing,
That's
Dave.
who goes with the hand that you see. That's it. That's it.
hand.
Happy birthday, beloved. We're out of time, but we do have cupcakes and stuff, so we're gonna celebrate the producer on today. We're gonna keep you posted, beloved. We're gonna be back at you. We are not leaving this issue between now and next time. Please, thank you and be blessed.